They all die.
So I put my brain in a box.
Dave's a cheater.
All right, well, screw the news this week, you know?
This sucks.
It's been a long week.
Welcome to the Hashtime Show, your weekly source for cyber news and info. This is episode number 11. On today's show, Dave, Chris, and Jeff discuss the one thing you would change about the internet and debate whether or not the perimeter is dead. Check us out online at hashtimeshow.com. And now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Hashtime Show, your weekly source for cybersecurity news and info. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Vincent. Sitting across the table from me, Dave Norland and Jeff Marshall.
What's up?
Woot.
Welcome back to the show, guys. This is episode 11, and we're going to
They still let us record this thing?
Well, yeah, so far.
Okay.
You guys watching Stranger Things?
No, but I see a lot of
I said
advertisements
11 and it
for
made me think about it.
Is it 11 significant to the story?
That's the name of one of the characters, yeah.
That's their birth
I have
name?
not watched season 3 yet. I'm not.
I'm
yet.
2 episodes into season 3. It's pretty good.
It's good? Okay. I'll have to put that on my
Spoiler.
list of things to watch.
They all die. That's what my wife tells me. Like anytime I say I don't want to know what happens in the movie, she goes, "They all die."
Jesus.
That's just her answer.
I'd be surprised if that happened to this, but yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, what do you think we should jump into our show here?
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable.
I'll allow it.
All right, so we're going to kick off the show today with our tried and true segment, Getting to Know You, where we get to know a little bit more about Dave and Jeff. And we've discussed on previous podcasts, you don't want to learn about me, really. So
We all apologize in advance.
So I want to ask you guys a kind of a crazy off-the-wall question today. And
Give you a crazy off the wall answer.
I wanted something that was open-ended so we could have a little fun. So if you could change one thing about the internet, what would it be?
I would say that it's currently on, and I would turn it off.
Your off switch.
Yes.
That makes me think of that South Park episode, Finding the Internet.
Is that just like an EMP then?
No, it's a switch. Have you seen the IT Crowd episode where they have the internet in a box? So they at least convince her that it's an internet in the box, and she's like, "Please don't touch it. It's very fragile."
This may be sacrilege, but I've never watched the IT Crowd.
I'm in the same boat, and my wife drugged me into watching several episodes, and that's probably one of the more famous ones, is where they convince her that the internet is like a little box with a light on it.
That makes me think of that time that one guy in our company said, "Oh, we got a sock in a box."
Yeah.
I know that guy.
What was that, me or
Wasn't it you?
who was it? Who are we talking about?
I'm pretty sure you're the one that said sock in a box, right?
I think I did. I think it's
I think he did making fun of it though. But this is
Yeah.
something an old executive of ours always used to say.
Okay.
Oh, I think sock in a box came up last week during the.
It did.
Yeah.
I think I said that
During the
Yes.
silly acronyms.
Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, that he used to. Yeah,
Oh, okay. This is before my
This
time
is-
joke.
Yeah, this is before
a
your
long time ago in a
This has
galaxy.
been the portion of the podcast where we tell
the road.
inside jokes that only 2 of the 3 guests know and none of the listeners know.
Remember that funny thing that happened that Chris doesn't know about?
So let's get back to this. So
Let's be serious, guys.
turning it. No, I mean, I'm just trying to get us back on topic as if we have one.
Sorry.
No. So back in 2009, I was sitting, I had an office at the Bank of America building in Mesa, some hot geo-target talk here.
That's a great lead into a story.
And and I'm sitting up there, and we, as my old business partner I used to do, we used to get tall boys and have McDonald's late at night. You know, we're trying to.
That sounds like a fantastic night.
That's how I gained 40 pounds in a couple of months, pretty quick. Yeah, it goes pretty fast when you don't work out and do that. But I literally sat there and I was like half drunk. I was like, dude, how does the internet get from the U.S. to the UK? I'm like, dude.
Those are the best kind of conversations.
And then I Googled it and I was like, oh, there's wires. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh.
It's wires that go through the ocean.
They go through the ocean, the transatlantic, whatever it's called, the Marianas Trench of internet wires or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That'd
be a great plot for a movie, by the way.
I'm pretty sure it's happening right now because some Russian sub caught on fire, and the leading theory is that it was fussing around with the undersea cables. So yeah, I'm sure all that stuff is happening. People are trying to map that, and figure out how they can sabotage it in a crisis.
Question is, who would star in that movie?
Me.
All right, who that matters would star in that movie, Dave.
Hey, I'm gonna matter if I'm not here, right?
That's hilarious.
I'm guessing it would have to be like Tom Cruise or Liam Neeson or Thor.
I'm trying to think.
It's just a social contract that someone has in Jack.
Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker.
Ming.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Fifth Element's a great movie.
I love it, and I love his role in the Fifth Element. I can't even talk.
Yeah, he's great. So the wire that goes across the sea to make the internet work is people who don't really work in IT. I mean, most of the people that listen to this show are going to be IT related people for the most part, except for my significant other, and my kids. But
Your kids listen to our podcast?
they do.
Why?
Yeah, I force them. I force them to.
Great podcast, Dad.
And my buddy Steve too, who I misquoted terribly. Remember from a couple weeks ago when I was like, wait for cutting technology intel and all that? My buddy Steve listened to the podcast and he's like, dude, what you said I did is way cooler than what I did. And I was like, oh, I misremembered it in a more fantastical way. But most people who listen to this know, but the internet's just a bunch of computers plugged in together, right? We get that.
Yeah.
So what do you, when you say turn it off, what do you mean?
I was being silly.
I know you're being silly,
facetious, but
But I agree with you in some, it'd be nice if we could shut that off a little bit, right?
well, I'm going to try to spin this into something intellectual, and I was really just messing around.
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Yeah. So I was totally messing around.
I was trying to spin it intellectual.
So as we're talking about this, I would say find a way to make it more redundant. As we were talking about the undersea cables, because if one of those gets cut, then you have like a complete fracturing of.
Don't you have East Coast and West Coast?
Yeah, but then you got to go all the way around.
Through Cape Town.
You ever tried to game on some server that is like in Russia or something?
No, I get you.
Yeah,
It takes
I have.
forever. Latency, man.
Yeah, it's latency,
Sucks.
bro. Latency, bro.
It's latency, bro.
Should all just be wireless.
So
To that point, yeah, I think I just read this week that Amazon is embarking on some kind of campaign to put an array of satellites above the U.S. to pipe down internet at a higher speed than what is traditionally thought to be possible from satellites.
Isn't Elon Musk already doing that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he just deployed those 60 satellites that they lost a few of them already.
Okay, so maybe they were. Was that for Wi-Fi?
I don't remember 100%.
Specifically satellite internet / Wi-Fi that they were.
I can't wait till the satellites start fighting each other.
Yeah, so now we got 600
that's
satellites.
a movie. That's in the cybersecurity movie we got to write.
We won't even be able to go to Mars or the moon because there'll be too many satellites in our path to get there.
You know, you say that though, but
Space
that's a
trash,
very
yeah.
real
No, for sure.
concern. I mean, I read the science blogs all the time, and that's like a big problem. Is you have satellites that are now being militarized, and it's completely suspect that Chinese. Gosh, I can't talk today.
No, sorry,
The Chinese have been messing around with other people's satellites.
I was thrown off because you said science blogs, and I just imagine you go into scienceblogs.com.
Let's try it. What's on scienceblogs.com?
You know,
Let's go there on your Mac.
I think in Dave's instance, it would probably be more like sciencehistoryblogs.com.
Scienceblogs.com.
I don't know what's going to happen right now.
You're going to get malware watch.
It's an actual site with science blogs.
Is it good? Is it like a legit site?
The first site's about the end is not near, but if an insect apocalypse ever happens, how would we know? It's actually pretty engaging. But that's from April 29th. They're it's just some dude, I guess.
Okay.
Anyways,
More like part-time science blog.
science blogs hyphen part-time.
Anyway.
What I was trying to get to, not intellectual wise, I was trying to actually bring it back into cyber just a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, you should probably reference the cyber bro science guys.
Cyber bro site, AutoZoneBenefits.com. I'm making that site. So what
Some good pod right here.
what I was thinking is, you know, I'm a big fan of turning notifications off on your phone. Like for me personally, I'll turn them off sometimes, or I'll turn off I have social media ones for my personal stuff turned off, you know, as an example. So turning the internet off from a business standpoint, is that even a thing you could do?
It's not possible.
It's not possible
for me.
right?
In my current job, for better or worse, and I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, but I cannot afford to just turn my phone off.
It's not a real thing. I'm thinking like,
Have you ever Like, do your kids use iPads, tablets at home?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever said today is no electronic day?
Yeah.
I did that last Sunday just for the fun of it to see, and I thought my kids were gonna die. I mean, my 8-year-old cried. My daughter threw a fit and stormed off to her room. So I got my phone out, and then they both came back out and said, "Dad, why are you on your phone?"
Immediately hypocritical. Yeah, I'm thinking. No,
It's for work.
I think from a personal standpoint, yeah, I think we're at a point now where there's no going back unless you're one of those subsistence subsistence people that lives like in Alaska. You know what I mean? That like uses pack animals and
Chopping wood
yeah.
to fuel your phone.
But I'm saying like could any business could they ever operate with just shutting off any to stop hackers, to stop threats? Is that possible? It's not possible, right? Because they have to have work email. People have to be able to communicate externally from the organization.
I think we have this 24/7 expectation now
that
gets in the way of that. Yeah.
I'm just developing a box as we speak right now that just says "if bad guy turn off box."
It's gonna be a hit.
Wait, we need the sock in a box. Yeah, that's what it is. If bad guy turn off box. Okay, so
Talk to McDonald's.
I think it might be a trademark.
It's got
thing.
a good rhyme to it. Sock in a box.
Sock in a box.
It does.
$2.99. $2.99.
All right, Jeff, do you have anything to add? What would you change about the internet?
I think you guys covered enough. I don't know. To me, the internet is what the internet is, and I can't imagine it being different. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know.
I think what scares me about it is, it's Wild West right now, and it's like, what's it going to be like in 30, 40 years? Like, that's what it really is curious to
But
me.
would you really want control over that? Would you want someone to dictate what you can and can't do on the internet?
As somebody who's been an independent content creator, I think that's hurts you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that these companies like Google and Facebook that are all based out of the same area with really similar people are kind of run the internet essentially. I mean, you can make a website and put it up there, but you're not gonna be found if you're not on the platforms.
I guess I got one. If there was one thing I changed about the internet, it would be that I would get a royalty for every time you logged in.
And then they'll just live on the freaking moon.
And what's your other two wishes, Mr. Genie?
Well, in that case,
I'll say, to be real, I think maybe make it more democratized. Because you have these gigantic corporations that do run the internet. You have the ISPs.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, I feel like, so that's my second wish, Chris Genie, is to make it more democratized, because I don't have an easy solution as to how that happens. Like,
yeah, I get it. You've got nation states who prevent their users from freely using it. You've got, people looking at it. If it was more democratized, I could see some benefit there.
I mean, you're basically winding it back almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
But
were you taking a shot at China right there?
No.
Okay,
Never.
just make sure. Our
I'll
Chinese and
take
Russian.
a shot at China. China has basically segmented themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they
Russia
have.
has announced that they're going to do the same.
Doesn't
And
North Korea do it too, right?
North Korea is the poster child for that kind of thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But I think that is against the spirit of,
What the internet was
what
built for.
Right.
freedom and democracy and free speech and free flow of ideas. And I feel like there is no middle ground in terms of morality there. It's either you allow it and you reduce censorship as much as you can, and that's the good side of things, or you block it off intentionally. And there's no way to spin that. So
It's a heavy topic.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
All right.
sorry I made you all depressed.
I think that was good.
That was amazing. All right. Well, we got to know ourselves a little bit better, everybody. Let's jump into the news segment number 2. I got some ones that I found interesting this week, and if you guys have any to add, please do as we go through. The first one is, this is near and dear to my heart as an old school hardcore gamer. Fake CSGO PUBG rush cheats push password stealing Trojan. And I got this from bleepingcomputer.com.
Is this a duh? I mean, you go ahead and read the quote.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry to ruin your thunder.
No, you're not with my thunder at all. I was laughing about this as well. When you download the fake game cheat, it will come as a zip file that contains numerous files as well as instructions on how to use the game cheat. The instruction called tutorial.txt tells the user to disable the antivirus since this cheat has an injector on which the antivirus swears. So it's, hey, disable your antivirus and then we'll jam
Go to
you
your
up.
bank account. Send me your money. I promise it's legit.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of funny to me because everyone wants to cheat, right? Like,
of course,
like that's never changed in the game. I mean, since we were little kids till now, everybody wants the cheat code. Everybody wants to find the fastest way, the easiest way.
Human nature
to get through things. Yeah, I mean, it's funny to me, but it's the reality because this has been going on since forever. I mean, you go back in, you know, people would say, "Oh, download this from this news group site," or you know, download this whereas, and here's your cheat. And it was even back in the early 90s, it's the same thing. You know, it's like people never learn.
It just makes me happy that these hackers out there that I know are cheesing and hacking makes me feel a little better that they're getting infected with Trojans. As someone who never cheated on a video game online before.
I don't have an opinion.
Really?
I think they're just
Dave's a cheater.
People that
I think Dave's a cheater. I legitimately thought you'd have an opinion on this. That's weird.
I mean, people that cheat have already committed the wrong. So I don't believe in karma, but it is karma.
It is karma,
way,
right? Yeah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the if you're a robber and then you get robbed, no one cares, right?
Right. Yeah, it's the exact same concept. So they already goofed, and then now it blew up in their face. Whoops.
And this just goes back. This is a social engineering sort of phishing thing, right? This just goes back into that, like, user from a business standpoint, user education. If you're seeing a free software download without software trial, you know, like for example, I download a lot of new softwares trying to do audio stuff and video stuff, and you know, quick little favicon makers. And you got to be careful when you're a traditional user what site you're going to, what you're using, what you're uploading, keyloggers, all the rest. So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing there is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Segment or headline number 2. New ransomware strain dubbed Echrax, ECH0RAIX, targets QNAP NAS devices. So this is from Cyber. It's a cybersecurity aggregator. Researchers from Anomaly uncovered a new ransomware strain dubbed Echrax that targets QNAP network attachment storage devices used for backup and file storage. So this one seemed like a big deal to me. That's why I want to bring it up to you guys. Is this a big deal?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense that the ransomware would go attack where the files are, which is on a NAS.
So those are pretty heavily used in consumer, right? Like home users?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Aren't these just like the little kind of like USB NASs or little Ethernet NASs you can plug in?
I believe so. I find that kind of interesting that Anomaly found that. Like, yeah, like exactly like one of those Synology NASs or something like that. Yeah,
I mean, it is kind of the IoT.
Yeah,
it's in that space, I guess you could say. These really easy consumer solutions that wind up not being so secure.
This isn't the first time. I mean, these are things people have targeted for a long time. You know, trying to get access to people's data, or you know, ransomware, encrypt their data, that kind of thing. It's pretty common.
Anomaly is one of the intel feeds you guys reference sometimes, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So it's a good source.
Yeah, Anomaly's pretty good.
Yeah, they're a pretty good source.
All right. Well, more ransomware, more new ransomware. We always have to watch out for. All right. Headline number 3. Moving on real quick here. Pirate Bay found running browser-based cryptocurrency miner to generate revenue. Quote, the most popular torrent download website, Pirate Bay, is back in the news, this time for secretly running an in-browser cryptocurrency miner to make digital currencies without users' knowledge. This is crazy. How do they do this? So they got discovered because people were noticing a CPU spike. Have you guys ever run cryptocurrency miners on your home computers before?
Nope.
Yeah. You have?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have as well. So it eats resources, right? We know this. So how are they able to get away with this? How do they do that? Like, how does that work? Like,
It's just probably some kind of little JavaScript plugin.
Here's really, how often do people really look for those things on your computer? Even as an IT guy, you're sitting at home, and at first you're like, my computer's going slow, my internet's going slow. You just kind of brush it off, right?
Right,
so
right.
I can see that this could have happened. You know, it's kind of interesting. We've seen scenarios where they've been on corporate systems, and you know, the end users didn't have any clue. So unless your system's bogged down to the point of unusability, most people won't complain.
Well, it's not really malicious, right? It's just kind of, they're trying to make some cash.
That's always the excuse. Well, it's not really hurting shady. You. It's no different from ads, right? But I mean, yeah, but ads aren't utilizing my CPU for someone else's gain.
It's a really good point. I mean, ads slow my websites down all the time, and it drives me freaking nuts because it'll be some flashy ad, and it's like, just do a text ad. Come on.
So we had this developer who was building a new login page, and he decided to put like some crazy image in the background where it like connects the dots and almost looks like constellations.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, Dave and I's CPU skyrocketed and we couldn't even log into the damn page. Drove me crazy.
It looked cool though.
It did look cool.
Yeah, at least it looked cool. Well, again, if you're going on Pirate Bay, you're doing something illegal, so maybe you should be getting mined.
I feel like we're getting a theme of stories here.
Hey,
like
you ran the red light, so I'm guessing you want to be punished for that.
Yeah, it is kind of a theme. It just happened to pop up for me, and being somebody who's used Pirate Bay before, I know all too well when you click on links, you get a lot of pop under ads are the worst. Pop under ads where you're literally it's popping under the current window that you're in. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I had to think about it, but I do realize what you're saying. Yeah.
Or the new tab ad. Have you seen that where the current tab that you're on will go to an ad, but then it opens what you want to go to in a new tab?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chrome does that a lot. Anyways, come on, Pirate Bay. Or not. You're illegal.
I feel like we failed on the news segment this week.
Yeah.
We did?
We're just not into it.
All right. Well, screw the news this week,
News sucks.
It's been a long week.
It has been a long week.
I feel like I'm getting a little stir crazy. I've literally been in this room since I walked in the door at 8:05 this morning.
We literally had a meeting with a partner today, and they came in 15 minutes early, and our other meeting hadn't finished yet, and our lunch was sitting here on the table, and we're like, we're not coming to the meeting for 15 minutes, so we eat lunch.
Yeah, you should probably eat lunch. Well, we can take the podcast out into the park if you want.
Let's go.
Just,
I don't know what that means.
Traveling podcast.
I'll try anything once.
There's going to be a lot of wind noise. It's pretty windy today, actually.
It is. I kind of wonder if we're going to have a sandstorm. Because it seems like the conditions are ripe.
As you say that, look out into the distance. There is a lot of sand out there.
Yeah, for those listeners, we're here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It is coming up on monsoon season.
I should be on the Weather Channel.
So you should. You sound.
Did you feel it in your bones?
It feels like it's going to rain.
You're like powder. You go outside and vanish into thin air.
I used to live next door to a weatherman. I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but he was a very, very boring individual.
Man. Here in Arizona or a different place?
Different place.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we did film the news this week, but I'm going to try to bring it back around with our next segment, the breach of the week.
Oh, Lord.
Now, I want to pick one that's a little bit less. The last one was sad. The Virgin Islands getting hammered and losing a bunch of money. That was bad. So I wanted to do something that's a little bit more fun. So
fun breaches. Those are the best.
This one's an okay breach. No, this was not really, but it was less malicious, and it was but it had a wide impact. So Agent Smith malware infects nearly 25 million Android devices. So
and he called this fun?
Yeah, it's not. I guess maybe fun's the wrong word. It's the wrong word I'd use to describe. So this was basically a rogue. Was it the app was rogue or
because rogue agent?
Rogue agent. Okay.
And like in the Matrix.
Yeah. Agent Smith.
Yeah. So it was disguised in an app on a third-party app store, and it was basically replaced the app, and then
I think I read it was mostly affecting people in India, right?
Yeah, I think so. And so it was just serving ads and like slowing the app down instead of not.
Mr. Anderson.
So this is a major breach. 25 million Android devices. That's a lot.
In India? They're probably all on some ad.
Is it ironic that it's Agent Smith and it's an Android?
Well,
how would that be ironic? He wasn't an Android in the Matrix. He was just a computer program.
Yeah, he was a line of code.
That's close enough. It's Android-ish.
What's droidish about that?
Have you guys seen I Am Mother? Speaking of that,
yes.
No, is that good? I've heard
that was good. A great movie.
It was pretty good from a sci-fi perspective.
Was that the?
Again, as you guys know this from previous podcasts, I love cheesy movies. So that was a very high budget cheesy sci-fi movie. I loved it.
So don't spoil it for me because I haven't seen it, but I do want to see it. Isn't that where they got Hillary Swank and someone who looked like her, or did they de-age her?
Neither.
She
ironically just looks like her. Yes,
she happens to look a little bit like her.
She's like, it has to be one of these two options.
My brain's not working. It's been a long week.
It was the first movie in a while where after it was over, I Googled to get other people's interpretations.
Okay.
So that's a good sign for me that it made me think a little bit.
I heard it was very well received, and I do want to see it. So.
Yeah, watch it.
Okay. It had some things missing from it that I'd want to see, but
yeah, there was definitely some plot holes, but I thought it ended good.
Yeah, it was good. So I don't know why I thought of that, but yeah, Mr. Anderson. All right, so hey, if you have by the way, 15 million of these Android users were in India, so yeah, there's still 10 million across the world, other places. So if you guys are, make sure you don't have Agent Smith on your phone, Android users. Not me, because I have an iPhone, because Apple's awesome.
I still use a BlackBerry.
Whatever.
You have a BlackBerry?
No.
That'd be hilarious. All right, cool. All right, guys, we are dwindling on today's podcast. Sorry, guys. We'll need to get the energy up for this next segment. That
hit me up on my Sidekick.
Sidekick. Remember the Sidekick?
The T-Mobile Sidekick?
The T-Mobile Sidekick.
No. Oh.
Is it after the Razor? Remember the T-Mobile Razor?
Is that like a jitterbug?
What? No.
You don't know what a jitterbug is?
No. What's a jitterbug? Oh my gosh. Show me. This is a lot of dead time on the show.
No.
It's an old people phone.
It's got like 4 buttons.
That's a real phone?
Yes. You don't remember seeing the commercials for these?
No. For anybody listening to this right now, go Google jitterbug right now. How
am I the only one at a tech company that has heard of a jitterbug?
Jitterbug phone.
How have you not heard of the Sidekick?
Is it just it's like an old like wireless phone but a cell phone?
Yeah, it's like the old flip phones, but they're larger for those of us that want the more tactile feel of a button, I think.
How do you get service on that?
Through the cellular network, I would assume.
Well, first you got to write your congressman.
Yeah,
I think those are burner phones for grannies that sell drugs, man.
Granny's got a burner. What are you doing with that, Granny?
She's got 2 phones.
Don't worry about me.
Some grannies, man. Some of those grannies in boroughs in New York, they run the numbers,
Look at this thing.
Oh my God, I didn't realize it was that big.
Why is it so huge?
Dude, it's bigger than his head.
It's like the original cell phone, but maybe even a bit bigger. Oh, see, here's what's... We're just looking at pictures on a podcast.
You guys don't see this?
We're looking at a picture of an elderly gentleman scratching his head looking at a smartphone. And then a confusingly similar looking older gentleman holding, what's this thing called again? The jitterbug.
Jitterbug, yeah.
And the phone is about, it
looks like one of those calculators where the buttons are like
T9.
bigger than a quarter.
It's as big as a shoe. It's literally a cell phone as big as a shoe.
a size 12 shoe. That's a huge thing. That's ridiculous.
All right.
Moving on. Let's jump on to the last part of the show today before we devolve into just looking at pictures on a podcast more. So you guys brought before the show, you guys were ranting, and I wanted you to rant on air. So I don't even know what you guys were talking about, but I want to know what you guys were talking about when you said the perimeter's dead. The perimeter's not dead. No, it's not dead. Like that's what I heard. Yes. So what are we saying when we say the perimeter's dead?
It's a very trendy thing in security, I've noticed, for people to claim the perimeter's dead. And
the network perimeter.
The network perimeter. So that means like your traditional security appliances, like your firewalls, your IDSs, your IPSs. There's the perception that as we move more toward the cloud, that stuff is lessened in value, which is nonsense.
Why would it be lessened in value? What's the logic behind that?
People like to say that the perimeter is dead. They're trying to focus on the endpoint or the cloud. I think it's really, how can I position my company to seem like there's value in what we're doing instead of trying to solve a problem.
Oh, right? You mean like a third-party guy that's selling an endpoint tool or selling
we hear this from not just vendors, but from customers where they're like, oh, well, the endpoint's the perimeter's dead. The perimeter's not dead. The perimeter's wherever you're connected to, right?
Go tell that to your network architecture director or your network shop and tell them the perimeter's dead. They're going to
I'm pretty sure Cisco and Juniper and Brocade still sell millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment.
It's not just that. It's people consider their Palo Altos the perimeter for a reason. Like, it's because you have to have something to filter out all the crap before it gets to you. So
you will always have some kind of device or software that has firewall-ish capabilities, intrusion detection or prevention capabilities, malware capabilities, and whether that be on your machine or in a firewall or a router at the edge of your network, it's a perimeter.
Yeah. We don't have these amorphous blob networks that like bleed over into each other by way of circumstance. Like, no, an enterprise network is a defined like fortress of a network. It has to be. So
until we have quantum computing.
Yeah.
No, but so let's back up. So
then you'll have a quantum firewall.
Until I put my brain in a box.
Because there's
the next service, brain in a box.
Brain in a box.
And then with a switch, just turn it off.
Just turn me on.
This is an extension of cloning Dave. Don't clone yourself. No, there's some good nuggets here. So let's mine a little bit because let me unpack what you said a little bit.
Let's mine for these nuggets, Chris.
I like to mine for nuggets. What would be the argument someone would give for why moving to the cloud would make perimeter tools not as important? What's the argument around that?
I think the biggest argument is, well, you can have, let's say, all three of us, different locations. We're all accessing this data up in this cloud. Well, guess what? The cloud has a perimeter. It doesn't matter if it's virtual or not. I mean, your perimeter is the edge of wherever you're at.
So they're saying that, hey, now everything's in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about it. But there's still what you guys are saying is there's still the inherent risk of wherever the user's at. And that's part of your network if that person works for your company.
Right. And that's kind of where I was going with the whole amorphous blob network is, to the user perception, when you go to the cloud, it is kind of this amorphous thing that you log into for whatever your service is, but no, you still need some kind of secure way of accessing it, and where you're logging in still has to have a way of protecting itself. Like the perimeter for a cloud provider would be extremely real because they have to make sure that they're authorizing the right kind of traffic to come in. So it's just kind of this marketing fallacy that I keep hearing more and more.
Got it. Okay. So the perimeter's not dead. You heard it here first. But we hear this all the time with everything. I've heard this with online. Google's dead and Facebook's dead and
it's marketing babble.
Google, you can't make money online anymore. All that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you can. You can do whatever you want to do if you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
And that's the moral of this story.
I feel like we're not done.
No, we're not. We're not done.
This has been a weird podcast.
We're not done yet. We need to have. This is what happens when I work really diligently on something else all week long and then do the podcast production the day of. So we're gonna have to fill in some gaps here.
With what? What are we filling in?
Well, let me ask you guys a couple questions. Actually, I was prepared for this.
Oh, jeez.
So when I go to Science Blogs,
here we go again.
When I go to scienceblogs.com,
taking it back, coming full circle.
Which redirected him, by the way, to AutoZoneBenefits.com.
All right, so I had one. This is off Global Newswire. The quote here was 69% of organizations believe they will not be able to respond to cybersecurity threats without AI.
Why?
Yeah. So again, this is a marketing babble thing. I wanted to let me send this to you, Dave, so you can pull this up.
Okay.
I wanted to
let's pull it up for the viewers.
Pull it up for the viewers.
So your comment cracks me up because it makes me think of a guy who used to work here. He had a interesting take on things. Okay. His answer was always that he could do it quicker manually than it would take you time to automate doing the action. And I know that's not the truth, but it for some reason made me think of that because he was very against AI and thought that he could just manually get through things faster.
It's weird. So in my former life,
and he would prove it sometimes.
He would prove it. In my former life, I was an analyst at Honeywell Aerospace, and they had me. Well, I was a buyer.
What did you analyze?
Procurement data.
Okay.
And try to figure out if we were going to get parts in on time.
Sounds exciting.
To ship engines. It was.
Tell me more.
Airfoils.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Impellers. Yeah. No, it was interesting because basically what they need is someone who could make charts. originally. I was a glorified chart. They made a position for me because they needed someone who was good with Excel, who could make charts, right? And I found myself pulling the same reports over and over and over again. Are you hiding behind the pop filter?
No.
I found myself pulling the same reports over and over again. Now, some people and I know some people like this, they're good at Excel, or they have a process-oriented mind like I do. Or I'm sorry, they're good at Excel and they're good at making charts and stuff, but they don't have a process-oriented mind. So they go, this is my job. I come to work, I pull reports, I make charts, I send it off to leadership, I go home, right? But my mind doesn't work that way. I get really frustrated when I have to do things manually and repetitively. So I go, well, if I get all these reports out of Oracle and out of Webflow and everything, and I put them into an Access database on a computer that runs all the time, and then I automate some stuff with Access.
Well, your first problem is you're still using Access.
I know. Well, this is back in 06, so it was a while ago. But Access
we'll let it slide this time.
Let Access slide. So I'll put it into a database, and then let the data crunch automatically, and then let it pull into Excel. From there, because Excel's the tool that everyone wants to use for reporting, and then have that auto-populate in a PowerPoint because of all the different things you can do with Microsoft. And so it took me about a year to do this. And the thing is that from a personal standpoint, it didn't really do much for me because it wasn't like, they're like, hey, great, you get to go home and you don't have to do your job anymore. They were just like, cool, we're going to give you more responsibilities. Good job.
So this cracks me up as you're sitting there talking about this. Dave's over on his computer Googling Microsoft Access.
I just want to know what happened to him.
What happened to Microsoft Access?
What happened to that little guy?
So automation's a weird thing because if you think about it, we're going to have automated cars, right? Well, you put a lot of people out of work. What do those people do? Right? That's a big question right now. That's if you listen to the Rogan podcast, it comes up every third podcast. But, automation's great, but if we don't have stuff for people to do that are doing that work,
I mean,
you got to,
cosmically.
It's all about training and learning new things. I mean, yeah, I think we have to get to automation and whatever. We talked about this on last podcast, but whatever AI is, machine learning, machine intelligence, it's going to become more and more prevalent. You have to do things to not have to manually look and touch things so often.
I mean, I'm not sure we're medicinally equipped for this kind of conversation, but
we're definitely not.
No,
despite it being a hashtime show. But isn't that the whole idea? Is to make life easier, to make work less strenuous, so people can go do what they want to do?
It is.
Isn't that the end goal? Wouldn't we all be happier if we could just sit around and do exactly what we wanted to do, go create and write and see and enjoy what we wanted, instead of having to work? I mean, and I don't mean that in the traditional sense of like going to a job and doing something to feed your family. I mean, like a more creative work that you can still work diligently at, still be fulfilled by, but not be dependent on in the traditional sense. Isn't that like the whole idea?
I have like so many thoughts about this. I think for me, a big part of, I'll put to you this way. I love IPAs. Just love them. I love the taste of an IPA when it hits my lips. It's amazing. But if I'm drinking them all day, every day, it goes away, right? And now that I'm working in this job where I have more of a structured, 8 to 5, when I go home and crack an IPA, for some reason, because all day long I didn't have that IPA, I worked all day and then I come home and crack that IPA. There's a satisfaction in that. And I get the same thing with like on the weekends when I want to do music. I worked all week long and then the weekend comes and I get to be focused on music and work on personal stuff. If I was just working on music all the time, drinking IPAs, I don't know if I would value that reward, if you want to call it, as much. Now, I'm lucky because I get to do something fun. I don't have to, go drive a UPS truck around. Although that might be kind of fun, but I don't have to do something that's a non-fun job. I get to do a fun, creative job. So I'm probably not the right person to ask on this. But I feel like there's a value that gets created when you have to work hard for something, and then you can go out and do it later.
I would 100% agree. There's just something more satisfying when you accomplish something that was difficult, and then you're able to go and hang out with your kids or your wife, say, you know what I did today? And you feel proud of that and stuff. And I think, to that point, I think if you sat at home all day long drawing pictures or making macaroni noodle necklaces, you'd probably get fed up with it.
But I agree.
Real quick, though. But I agree with you because people like you and me that I know from talking to you, we have a lot of interests, and I would make music and I would be creative and I would be driven in that if I wasn't doing a job. Right. So I agree what you're saying. So continue with your part.
Yeah. So I have too many interests. My dad calls me a Renaissance man. But if I didn't have a job, and let's say, the world has somehow found a way to provide for everybody to where they do have this crazy amount of downtime, I have so many things that I would do that would fulfill me from like this industrious, hardworking standpoint. Like, I've got a little game development project, and I would just be able to absorb myself in that, and that would like maybe become my day job. Or I would, I have a passion for ancient Greece, so I'd go travel and just spend like a couple of years in Greece. So these things that I think we think of like the more simple leisures, and we think that we would automatically trend toward that. But yeah, you would get tired of that. And then like for you, Chris, you have a passion with music, and I think given enough downtime, you would be like, well, I could do some way more interesting things with this guitar than I am.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to go to work to distract myself.
Or I could become better at it by practicing 4 to 8 hours a day.
Would you have the same feeling where you're like, man, I wish I had, I'm going to go do something different. I wish I had something different to do than play my guitar all day.
You have complete freedom to go find something else to do.
You have that now.
You don't though.
You have a different lifestyle.
Everyone in here has a family to feed, has career aspirations, but we have those for a reason. It's because that's the way our society is shaped.
I get what you're saying.
It's a really good question. It's a really deep topic, probably too deep for the Hash Time show.
I feel like this is a little off topic, but it's interesting.
I think so. I come from a background where I worked a job, started a business, and then I just traveled around and made AutoZoneBenefits.com for about 4 years, literally just made websites and had no boss, no schedule. I would stay up till, 7 in the morning and sleep till 3 in the afternoon. And so I had that complete freedom. And I found for me personally, I've happened to find I miss some of that. I miss being able to just like do something for 10 hours straight without any family or other work interruptions. But so there's value to that. But I find for me personally, there's more value in a more standardized way of living. Because I've tried both. I'm one of the few people that's actually tried both for extended periods of time.
I think there's some fear in it because structure is easy.
Correct.
People go into the military and anticipate a lot of hardship. And while sometimes that's true, it is very easy to just kind of sink into this routine where you have someone giving you this direction, this kind of guiding your way through life, telling you where to be, what time and all that. And I think a lot of people maybe at first thought have difficulty imagining themselves where they don't have that structure.
Yeah.
Like to me, I have all these other ideas and passions that I would just like immediately jump into. I can imagine it very easily. Sometimes I'll take a week off, and when I have that week off, I know exactly what I'm going to do with that time because I have all these interests,
passions.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. So to tie back with cybersecurity, but it's been good. We should elaborate this more at a later podcast. But so from an automation standpoint, automation and AI is coming with cyber. We talk about it pretty much every week now. And it's about what we're trying to do here, like internally at Data Shield, which is cross-training analysts with threat intel guys and getting people engaged with the engineering team and having people that they can do different multi-roles. And it's about, like you said, knowledge and awareness and about training and creating interest and fostering some of those. That's how you deal with automation in your company as it comes through and replaces headcount.
Yeah, to sort of ground this conversation a little bit more, we want to automate so our analysts can be more creative. So That's kind of a microcosm of what we're talking about. And it frees people up to think more, to have better ideas about how to do things, to be more creative. And I think that's the end goal. Automation is messy, but it has never failed to succeed. Like anytime there's some big technological innovation that came along, people fought it, yes, but they always failed. The innovation and the technology always advances.
It's true.
So regardless of what happens, we're stuck with it, better or worse. And I think it will be better. I think it's a net positive in the end.
I think this podcast just ended on a net positive.
Take that, Joe Rogan.
We're
coming for you.
All right. We appreciate you guys turning back in. This has been Dave, Jeff, and Chris, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Hash Time Show. Check us out online at hashtimeshow.com.
I would say that it's currently on, and I would turn it off.